Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
I was in tears. I was just like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. My name is Ryan McGuire, and I'm here to bring you conversations with the most wild folks on the planet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. Appreciate you guys. Let's get it going. All right, we're back. Who the Wild Things Are. Osborne back for another episode. Happy to have you, man.
Happy to be here.
Always happy to have you. Yeah, today figured we would talk about something that you and I have been doing a lot together, which is kind of backcountry skiing and exploration and winter sports in the mountains. I guess a good place to start would be, in your own words, what if you were talking to someone from like Mexico, maybe not the best answer, somewhere with no snow. What is backcountry skiing? What is it?
Backcountry skiing is basically, I guess, the way skiing originated, where it's being able to travel in the snow or be able to walk in the snow when it's too deep to be walking. You'd be like post-holing. So when you throw some skis on, you can float across the snow, similar to hiking or mountain climbing with skis. Yeah. And the fun thing with that is that when you're going up, obviously the skis are super slick. So when you're going uphill, there's like these, they're called skins. Basically, one side of it is sticky, like a little bit of a glue. The other side is like a short carpet almost, or microfibers that are directional. And so you can slide your ski forward, but it won't slide backwards. So you can hike uphill.
Yeah. And originally, my understanding is that they were skins, right? Like if you pet a dog, they kind of like have this directionality to their skins, and obviously other mammals are like that, and that was how they used to do it, was putting animal skins on wood, which allows you to have that friction, and when you gain or advance up the mountain, you kind of don't lose your progress as you go. And there is like a little bit of distinction, right? Because you and I, we like the human powered thing, but in the backcountry, there's kind of different forms. So when we talk about it, we talk about skinning or ski touring, which means walking uphill, skiing downhill on a mountain. There's no resort, there's no services, there's no bathrooms, there's no concession stands. Similarly, you could also do this, let's say like you're not as fit, but you do love the idea of the adventure. You could also do it via helicopter, which is also another form of backcountry skiing, or via a sled or a snowmobile. So both of those are really popular, like in the west and north in terms of like big country skiing. But I think what you and I like to focus on more so is like the human powered aspect of it.
One day I'd love to be dropped by a helicopter, but right now earning the turns is what a lot of people will call it, is like
earning the turns.
You're working, like you're going for a hike, like you're hiking uphill with all of your gear, and it's hard and it's it's steep. But then you get to take the skins off of your skis, put your snowboard back together, whichever one you're on, and then you get to like ride downhill in some of this terrain that very few people get to, because less people are inclined to. I mean, I guess that's definitely growing, but like there'll be thousands of people at the resort and maybe 10 people out at the spot that we go. Yeah,
or sometimes none.
No one.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good distinction, which is like I am primarily doing the split board. You're on skis. Split board being I have a snowboard that it can be cut in half, and then I wear it as skis going uphill and snowboard downhill, because if I was to try and snowboard uphill, I'd be screwed.
For sure.
No one has really figured out a way to do that effectively yet.
No, unless you're on snowshoes with your snowboard on your back.
That's obviously another option. What do you love about backcountry skiing? Like why is it such a focus for you now?
I have always loved nature in the snow. Like there's something just so quiet, pure. Once this like covering of snow just like covers everything, sound is just like muffled. everything is a little magical. And so like these are the same trails that I'd be hiking in the summer. And so now to be able to go back in the same places, it's just quiet. It's medicine for my whole nervous system.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfair that, like, I don't know if unfair is the right word, but unfortunate that, you know, so many people now, they get to experience the wilderness during the summer months when it's more suitable for us furless animals, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're able to go out there and it feels great during the summer, but during the winter, we just kind of shell up in a house and people get really fucking depressed and nobody's really sure why. And then, like, we go out, do a couple days of skinning, and, like, instantly you're, like, overwhelmed with joy the minute you get out there. And you're like, oh, this is what I needed, was to be outside. Like, I can still exist in the snow. There might be moments where we're cold or uncomfortable or wet,
Right.
but you still crave that outdoor time even in the winter.
Absolutely.
And it's super
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah, I feel like it's so essential, and it can be overlooked a lot easier in the winter. And I think it's, so many friends or different people, they're like, oh, but that sounds so cold. It's like, it can, like you were saying, it can be, but there's no bad weather, there's just bad gear.
That's a good point.
And that, obviously, on this topic especially, I say that with a lot of, a lot of care. There's bad situations, but ultimately, like, you can be in pretty cold, pretty severe conditions and still be comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
Especially when we're hiking or skiing uphill.
Right.
We're working up a sweat.
Yeah. You're never wearing goggles, helmet, oftentimes not even a hat. And usually for me, no coat. I'm usually in pants and a t-shirt on the way up, and it's 30 degrees out, but you have to remember, like, you're cooking, you have a heavy backpack on, you've got, like, maybe 3 pounds on each foot, and you're climbing up a hill at altitude. Like, you're not worried at all about the cold on the way up. The issue is when you get up there, typically you find this spot, maybe you found, like, some good powder caches or some really beautiful land that you want to ski through. Then you transition. You take off the skins. In my case, put your board together. Maybe you put your coat on, get some more warm layers. That's when the cold sinks in.
Oh, for sure. Because you pretty much need to take your gloves off to, like, work with all the gear, taking the skins, putting your board back together, all these things. And at this point, you're already at the top, or some top, maybe not the summit, but, like, it's windier. It's colder.
Probably above tree line or at tree line.
Yeah.
And the dogs are getting cold too.
Yeah, which has been such a fun piece of skinning this season with my new puppy and with your dog. To be able to take them up in the snow is just a blast to watch them have so much fun.
One of my favorite moments, and this is just like a dog dad thing. It's like, you take your dog deep into the mountains, and, like, we'll be out there, the 4 of us, me, you, Ebony, and Willow, and they are just going at it for hours and hours and hours. And then we get back, we get in the truck after a long day in the mountains, and they just crash.
Oh, yeah.
They just become useless little sacks of fur, and they just pass out. And it's like, yep, that's what my dog needed.
Absolutely. That's what we all needed.
It feels so good.
Little sunlight, little cold exposure, little exercise.
Yeah.
Fresh air.
Yeah, and a little downhill speed, baby.
Eso.
Yeah, so that's the long and the short of what it is. And I think a lot of people, like, when I talk about backcountry skiing or snowboarding, a lot of people, their ears perk up, because I think it's a thing out in the future that a lot of people want to do. They say they want to get there, but it does take, like, quite a bit of attention to get yourself there, because it is extremely dangerous.
For sure.
Unfortunately, like, last week we just had our first fatal avalanche here in Colorado on Red Mountain 3, which is very unfortunate. And actually, the way I understand it, there was multiple right now, Colorado conditions are so bad, we've been kind of holding out
1 to 12 a day for the last week and a half.
Yeah, basically there's an avalanche every single day. Some fatal, or one fatal, most of them not. And the other thing that I didn't realize after looking at the CAIC report was that several were not triggered by snowboarders or skiers. They were actually triggered by snowshoers and people on snowmobiles.
Yeah.
So it's like you can be out in these places and be doing your best. The one that was the fatal accident, there was actually ski tracks just to the skier's left, looker's right of where he was going, and he just went a little bit too far to this wind-blown ledge and triggered it. I mean, there was tons of people skiing right there in that area.
Yeah.
So,
I know, it's wild. It's such a magical and just deserves so much respect.
Yeah.
I feel like backcountry skiing for me is similar, or in a similar category as trad rock climbing, where it's like something where it's like, okay, as in like in the future thing, like this is something I want to do. I would love to get into this. I haven't had the opportunities I haven't put myself in the position to learn that properly, because it takes a lot of, I don't know, education, and just like it's a bigger venture to know how to do it, to have the gear for it, and to do it safely.
Yeah. If you had like individual coming to you saying like, hey, I've been resort skiing, I can ski double blacks in bounds, I would like to get into kind of the more adventurous style skiing, what would your advice be to that person?
I think definitely taking a Avi course, I think, is a really good way to start that, because it just like it goes over a lot of the importance of knowing the grade, knowing the snow, knowing how to read the snow, because I think you can be an amazing skier, and in bounds it's great because they'll blast on any like avalanche prone slopes.
What do you mean by blast?
They'll basically detonate some sort of explosive that would trigger an avalanche if there's going to be one. So before they open the resorts, they'll trigger some of these on certain resorts to make sure that if there's an avalanche, it's going to slide now and not when skiers are on there. So it doesn't really matter how good of a skier you are in some sense. I mean, an avalanche is a lot bigger than we are.
Yeah. Yeah, the size and magnitude of these things, like most of them in Colorado have been relatively small because our snowpack is pretty small right now. But I mean, these are like village swallowers. Like they will take out cities sometimes, or blow out entire highways. Like it's not a matter of like, oh, well, I'm pretty tough. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's just if it gets you, there is no avoiding it. So the point, I guess, of the avalanche safety course is to, one, try to avoid, right, at all costs. So things like staying on slope that are under 30 degrees in terms of steepness, and then using some of the tools available, like the CAIC website for us here in Colorado. Basically, it does a really nice job. I look at it before we go out every time. Talks about if there's going to be an avalanche, here's where it's going to be. So it talks about below tree line, at tree line, and above tree line. And then it talks about which aspects. So you're actually looking at the mountain, because there's a couple different factors, but the way it works is it's kind of like being a weatherman. Just like if you were going surfing, you need to look at the weather. Same thing with backcountry skiing. You got to look at where are the aspects getting wind loaded. So what parts of the mountain are getting like these giant chunks of unsettled snow loaded by the wind, and then where is the sun hitting, right? Because obviously the sun is heating and changing the consistency of the snow.
For sure.
So those are two good pieces. And then the last one that's really important, I think, from the avalanche safety courses is if you are an avalanche, going through those exercises and trying to figure out how to save somebody or save yourself in the event of an avalanche.
Yeah, so when we go, even if we're doing, I feel like this season, a lot of what we've been doing is like really cautious, just because
super chill.
The snow has been, less, not super stable yet. So far this year, we've been playing in very cautious areas, but still always wearing a beacon, and it like basically lets me know where you are and lets you know where I am. So if I were to get buried, you would be able to turn your device to the other setting, to the search setting, and you could come find me.
Yep.
Ideally quick enough to
get you
me
out
some
of
air.
Yeah, and then just one step further. So it's kind of like beacon, probe, and shovel is like the standard Avi equipment. So the beacon being the piece that allows me to detect where you are roughly, and kind of like a small grid system. Once I've got you down, Osborne's in this area, then I use a probe, stick you this long stick that goes down through the snow. I hit something hard, and then I've got my backcountry shovel to kind of get you out of that situation. when I explain that to people, you know, that have never heard of this, they're like, oh, you're like actually preparing for this to happen. And it's like, well, it's better to prepare and it not happen than it happen. And you're kind of sitting there like, oh, crap.
Trying to dig with your ski
or ski pole or something like that.
For real. Yeah, I think another thing is like, sometimes I think of snow as like, oh, it's this white, fluffy, beautiful stuff. And yes, it is, until there's an avalanche. And then that stuff is packed so heavy, just like with the weight and the speed that these move, that it's really hard snow. It's like very compact. We're almost talking concrete.
Yeah, it can take out entire forests of trees.
Yeah.
Right? Like
that same white, fluffy snow.
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. And it's like that same idea of, you know, when you make a snowman, like you have that small ball and then you roll it and all of a sudden it's like the size of a 400-pound man. Now imagine that on the scale of a house.
Right.
The ball starts as the size of your house and then it's rolling. So that's the type of snowman that these things are making, which is like big enough to, take out small cities.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to mess around with. It's something to always be thinking about, but it also can be avoided.
For sure.
Like you said, I think me personally, I think you two are like definitely on the safer side. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I backcountry ski to access the best snow in the world. I think I backcountry ski because I want to explore.
Yeah.
Like I want to get in good turns on good quality snow and steep places that are fun. But like ultimately that's not my main goal. My main goal is 1, to get exhausted because I love to get exhausted. Mm-hmm. And 2, to like explore new places that I otherwise wouldn't go.
Right.
Similar to rock climbing in that way where it's like, oh, I would never go to this like small mountain range. But because I'm doing this activity there, you end up going there and like falling in love with this little pocket of wilderness.
For sure. For sure.
I think one cool thing that we've got going for us is the hut that you found.
Yeah.
And kind of getting to explore that area and just see all that it has to offer.
Absolutely. Has been such a fun piece to, basically a couple years ago was just hiking in the summer, came across this random little hut. Very just like put together, very DIY. But it's like right at this base, like you ski in a mile or two and then there's like some big bowls around it. Yeah. So just like a fun little spot to hide out, warm up. We both went out there. You took Nicole out there the other couple weeks ago.
Yep.
I did a little solo last week. It's a good time.
It's cool. Like the idea, a lot of people do hut trips. Here in Colorado, I think it's called the 10th Mountain Division. There's like a bunch of different hut trips from like military and different operations over the years. I did my Avi training at a hut called the Peter Eston Hut. If you guys get a chance to check out the Peter Eston Hut, highly recommend it. I think it's in like Eagle, Colorado. Relatively like stout walk-in for a beginner, I would say. But a really, really fun place with safe terrain. But the thing about all that is there's a lot of organization that goes into it.
Okay.
You've got to like book these huts. If you're on an Avi trip, obviously you have to pay, $1,200 or whatever that might be. You finding this hut and then sharing it with me, it's very cool because, we don't own it. No one does. It's very much just like eclectic in the woods, and we just kind of roll through there and, it's kind of like our little kept secret. Obviously, this is on a podcast, so I'm not going to tell people where it is.
Right.
But it's like this cool little thing that we have. And ultimately, it is funny because the beginning of last season or whatever, maybe 2 seasons ago, when I told you, I have a spot that like a couple caves in this area where I've spent a lot of time out. And I was like, I'm going to build a little hut out there because I wanted to build like a little debris shelter that I could ski in and ski out of. Mm-hmm. And then you showed me this and I'm like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. Yeah. It's just like this little like ramshackle shed that somebody just threw a bunch of screws in and it works.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't get torn down.
I know.
It seems like, it's totally like not allowed.
No, I think that land is just like public land.
Right.
And someone just came in there. There's a little wood stove in there It's leaks a lot.
Yeah.
And
Did you get leaked on when you went?
I definitely did, because there was like
Tell me about your trip a little bit, because I haven't even
Yeah.
really heard about it.
Ebony and I, the puppy, we skied in, and yeah, just had the best time. It was
Did you have an easy time finding it? Because I put like a skin
Yeah.
track in, but like at first when I went there wasn't really a skin track.
right. I kind of did. Yeah, it was easy enough. It was starting to get dark a little bit by the time I got there, and the snow was just deep. So Ebony was having a hard time. And honestly, yeah, it wasn't super easy to get up to the cabin, but yeah, it was so great. It was hilarious though, because I went and collected firewood, because I'm like, all right, I have steak, like it's time for dinner, and I need to stay warm. So I go and I collect firewood. First, I like took my skis off at the cabin, dropped my backpack because it was way too heavy, and then went out to get firewood. And I'm just like post holing like up to my waist.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay, skis go back on, and then went and got a lot of firewood, right? And so I go cook dinner, which was, yeah, one of the best steaks I've ever made.
Amazing.
Just like, yeah, I brought a cast iron, so I just did it on the fire. And so we ate, and I was pretty tired, you know, like sat by the fire and journaled and just had a great time with the puppy, and then went to bed. And then I'm like, I wonder if the wood's gonna last through the night. And then, yeah, basically I woke up. It's starting to get cold. I look at my clock. It was 11 o'clock p.m. I was out of firewood. It was cold. So I was like, all right, Ebony, we got to go get more firewood. And yeah, got a whole bunch more. And I just had like a little hatchet and actually the saw from my Abby kit.
Oh, nice.
Like for cutting basically slicing out the snow to test the different layers. And that actually worked really well.
There you go.
So cut up a bunch more and made it through at least till 4 a.m.
Sweet.
So
Yeah, I remember doing kind of the same thing with Nicole. Like here's what happened. We got there and I was like, you know, she's like so on it. She's just a job girl. Like she just wants to have a job, get things done, always knocks everything out of the park. And like we get there and we didn't even talk about it. I just start setting up the whole cabin and she's just outside getting wood. And she comes back and she has 1,000,000 twigs.
hell yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is going to be great, but like it's going to get cold tonight. And so we went and we just found like some old big chunks and basically used those later as the night went on so that we wouldn't have to stoke the fire as much. And we actually ended up, we had a ton of, I don't know if the firewood was still there, some of it.
There's like some branches.
Some smaller stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
We had more wood and we just like didn't end up using it because when we were going to bed, it was like 95 degrees in there. Like we were cooking.
Yeah.
And then she was warm up until, 6 a.m. And then, I sleep hot. So we ended up just like not feeding the fire during the night, which was
Amazing.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's just such an epic little spot. Like you're living very close to the land, but you have enough bases covered that you can hike in at nighttime and be safe, right? Because like a winter journey, if you were hiking in at 7 p.m. with no shelter set up, like it's going to be a really, really hard night without like some kind of 4-season tent or something
sure.
to that effect. So it really is cool. And then like the advantage is you can also just wake up and be ready to ski, like get first tracks out in these really beautiful bowls and not have to like drive to the mountains in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that you showed me that place. It's been a really cool little shelter for us.
It's a fun one. I still think we should go build some other ones though.
Definitely. Yeah. It's this hard thing. I had a student talking to me about this the other day, which is like, what is your right to live as a human, right? Like your right to fire and shelter, you know, because it's all legal. Like fire is illegal almost everywhere now, especially in Colorado. Building a shelter anywhere is pretty much illegal. Can't build a shelter on public land, can't build a shelter on private land. You can't, it's like there's rules against everything, and they all outlaw the things in which we have done for thousands of years.
Right.
Right? The laws ban you from hunting and from fishing and from living and making fire and cooking, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
do we have any right to those human activities? Or, you know, Matt Graham talked about this in the second episode of this podcast, which is he thinks there should be designated land in which it's made for practicing like more primitive lifestyle, you know? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard because like not everyone is going to tend and love the land the same way and treat it with the same kind of respect and dignity.
Totally.
Like if you had a bunch of these shelters, people would just be like murdering all the trees and burning them versus like going out there and being like, okay, I'm only going to take dead stuff or like overcrowded stuff or like taking firewood like with a lot of respect and like considering those factors. So it's a hard thing to think about. And shelters another one. It's like if you allow everyone to make shelters on public land, it would decimate the place. It really would.
It would. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess there's not enough people that see the magic in it.
And maybe no one else wants to.
Hopefully not. I want it for their well-being, but not for the forest.
Yeah. I guess that's a good point. I live in this la la land where everyone wants to do the things I want to do. But I guess that's not true.
Not fully.
You're telling me that's not true?
I mean,
are you kidding me? Everyone doesn't want to go cold sleep this weekend in the mountains at 10,000 feet and freeze their balls off and ski the next morning?
Not everyone, but there's enough.
There's enough of us. So when you're thinking about your time in backcountry skiing, how do you think about like partner? Like what exercises do you go through when you think about like skiing with people? Because it's not quite the same as like, do I want to go ski at the resort with somebody?
Right.
There's a little bit different process.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like going backcountry, I think there are a couple ways of doing it where, if I'm gonna go explore like especially new territory, I'm only going to do that with somebody that I really trust, that I know that their skills are what's required, but also that their safety parameters are similar to mine, where it's like, okay, if you're trying to go like take this risk, but I'm like, no, like we're staying out of avalanche zones. Like that's an important thing. And always to like know that like, even just testing our equipment in the parking lot, or as we like start getting to the mountain, where it's like, okay, make sure we on the same page. I know what you're thinking, you know what I'm thinking. We also know like, okay, we're not going to go down into that, take that cornice down there until we know where that's leading, or like, we have a plan basically.
Yeah, having a plan is huge, right? Like coming into the day and not showing up at the resort and being like, oh, we'll ride whatever looks fun. It's like, no, in the backcountry, like you need to have a plan. Like, okay, we're going to go up this pass. We're going to ski down this side because that side's like, you know, really nasty and shaded and sharky. It's like, no, we're going to stay in this. This was the plan we had, and this is what we're going to do. If that doesn't work out, maybe we've got a plan B, but we're generally doing one of two things. Right. And like kind of sticking to those parameters.
Right. Which I think is an important piece and something that's a little bit challenging for me, because I'm not that organized or structured. And so I love to be like, oh, we're here, but like, look at that. Right. Like, we should go do this. And it's like, okay, yes, within reason, like, have we looked into like the slope and what those conditions would be over here? Is that a safe thing?
Yeah. And part of it is like never exploring a new spot on a considerable avalanche day. Right. So like if you like, remember we were going to go to that one spot off 70 that I was saying, I ended up going alone to a different spot because I basically had to stay on flat territory that day and just hike around because I was dying to go out, but it was like double exclamation point, crazy avalanche risk. Yeah. Like to the point where if you get on anything with, even if you aren't on a steep terrain on a day like that, you can still be in an avalanche because there's steep terrain above you. Right. And those can be natural avalanches. Yeah. It doesn't take much on a day like that. So you literally can't control what's going on. And on days like that, it's important to just stay on stuff that you know or is like absolutely minimal risk. If you want to take a risk, if you want to ski steep stuff and explore new places, that's all great. But just do it on a lower risk day.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like I've been watching every day this last week and a half to be like, I want to go out so bad, but like the places I want to go, that's just doesn't make sense.
And luckily it is getting better.
Yeah.
Right now it
Yeah.
is like things are getting more stable. So I think like next couple weeks it's going to be really fun. One of our goals this year, we're both like relatively new to the sport, couple years in, but I know for me, and I think you too, is to ski the 14er, a summit of a 14er, right?
For sure.
Make it to the top of a 14er during winter, which in itself is hard, and then
Absolutely.
safely ski down.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that.
And that was one piece that I would reiterate on, like you talking about picking partners, is for me, I'm thinking about fitness level. Maybe in backcountry skiing more than almost like any other thing that I'm doing with a partner. Like if you're in the gym with somebody and they're not fit, it's fine. They can scale, right? They can just
Totally.
like make the workout easier. But in the mountains, it's like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing.
You need to know there's like a competent piece of like what we're doing, but also a competent piece of like, okay, if things go a little bit weird, say if, whatever happens, a ski breaks and you're back there 5 miles, do you have what it takes to get yourself out?
Yeah.
And
Are you
can I
self-reliant?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a piece that's probably overlooked a lot, because there is a lot of people who backcountry ski that just kind of like go to these areas. Maybe they just go to Berthoud and they just park at a parking lot and they just climb up the hill from their car and they ski back down. And it's like, that's a relatively safe situation where if something goes wrong, you just go down one hill
Exactly.
and you're back at your car. Not all backcountry skiing is like that.
No, I feel like in the Front Range here, we have a lot of like super easy access where you can even just like, I used to Loveland Pass.
Right.
You just thumb a ride,
Yep.
ski up or drive up, ride down.
Ride down,
And
put your thumb back up. Somebody will take you up. Keep going.
exactly. And I was like, oh, this is my entry into backcountry. And it's like, yes, that's beautiful. And I think it diminishes the severity of it a little bit, where I think people can see that and be like, oh no, I do backcountry, thinking they have what it takes. And maybe you do, but like, yeah, it's important who you're with.
Yeah, who you're with, fitness level, all that kind of thing. One thing I've been toying around with is trying to split board. I don't know how this would work, but split board the Colorado Trail, like in the midst
Ooh.
of winter. What do you think about that idea?
That would be an adventure.
That'd be big. The only thing is like the transitioning. It'd be tough.
Yeah.
It'd be really tough. I don't know, like on skis, like a lot of people have skied the Colorado Trail, and it makes a lot of sense because the difference being like you're just kind of taking off your skins, changing up a little bit during a transition, versus like split boarding, you're actually changing what you're riding on. And something like the Colorado Trail is like undulating, right? It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And, you're not always sure what kind of terrain is next. And so
Yeah.
you're not sure when to transition or when to stay on skis. So I
Totally.
feel like split boarding it would be a really weird challenge. I don't know if anyone's ever done it. I Googled it and nothing came up. But I don't know. Could be
I'll
fun.
be down.
Here's the thing. Do you do it unsupported? That would be really tough.
That'd be real tough.
Sleeping out every night for the entire effort.
Okay, how many, in timing wise, compared to hiking it,
Yeah.
do you think it'd be similar? Would it be faster?
I think it would be faster
Okay.
because like you're getting like these big downhill things where like you're moving at like 20 miles per hour.
Right.
And you're probably not getting that same kind of downhill on the trail if you're
For sure.
running.
You're also just carrying so much more gear.
A lot more gear. And the conditions are a lot tougher.
Yeah.
Like it would be so cold. Like, cause on the Colorado Trail, you're always at altitude.
Right.
Like you're sleeping every night. Like, especially starting in like, the San Juans, the way I did it the first time, I was sleeping at like 10,000 feet, so it's hard to sleep up there during the summer. Now you mix in like Avi territory, high winds, freezing temperatures. It would be a really, really legit challenge. And I think most people that ski the Colorado Trail, like you were saying earlier, ski it in the spring. Weather's nicer, snowpack's more reliable.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to like predict
For sure.
than like a midwinter traverse.
That'd be a trip.
It'd be big. Sometimes I'm like, man, should I also get backcountry skis? Or should I just stick should I stick with the split boarding forever? What do you think?
I mean, it all depends on, it would require a little bit more ski practice.
You tell me I suck at skiing?
I mean, for your first time, you did great.
Thanks.
There's just like some of the stuff you're snowboarding down, or we're snowboarding down back out in the backcountry is not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
pick
would
it up super fast, though.
I would definitely need to ski for like 2 seasons, but I'm like,
I think it's more convenient for backcountry. But then there's so many people that are just like, I don't know, I'm always watching Jeremy Jones and his crew.
yeah.
Always on boards and just like hitting some of the best stuff ever.
Actually, absolutely ripping. The guy at my Avi course said that the backcountry skis are the right tool for the job, but the split board is the right toy for the job.
I like that.
So like basically the split board is the fun, playful version, but like if you were actually trying to like get to certain spots or get distance or get days, the tool for the job would probably be the skis.
That makes sense.
It's a little more practical.
I just about bought a split board the other day. I saw one and I was like,
You almost did it?
So much fun.
You should do it. Then we'll be freaking twins.
One day I will for sure.
I think we still haven't done an overnight together at the hut, so I think we need to do that. That would be perfect. Because you're a pretty good snowboarder already. Like you don't really have there wouldn't be any adjustment.
I think I'd be good.
You'd be ready to rock. How many times have you snowboarded in the last like 2 years?
Honestly, I haven't been in the snow a lot the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Last season I was in California, and the season before that, I think I was in Costa Rica or something.
I remember our first trip to the hut was like last year, right before you left for LA, and we had this like amazing day out on the snow. We went to the hut, and you're like, "Damn, why am I leaving this?" You're like, "Is this? I kind of want to stay here and do this." And now you're back, and we're like actually doing it, which is like such an epic turn of events.
Dream come true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still need to get out there and just get everyone staying out there together. I really want to build like an outdoor living space in front of it, because then it would just like add to the ambiance and like make a little bit extra room. This is not like a big shelter. So
not at all.
I think adding like an outdoor living space would be really, really nice with like a fireplace or like some kind of.
Oh, for sure. And I think it'd be so easy. There's even like, I was looking underneath the hut, there's like lots of leftover material.
Right.
Nothing impressive, but like enough to make some good stuff.
Yeah, we could make a couple benches.
Yeah.
Did you see any animals when you were out there?
No.
We had
Nothing came to visit me.
We had a funny encounter where we were asleep. It's funny because I was actually dreaming, like I'm asleep. I'm a very vivid dreamer. So I'm sleeping there, and we had mice in the house here. So like mice had been on my mind. I was like having this battle with mice, and then I was having a dream about mice while I'm sleeping in the hut, like out in the backcountry. And they're like, somewhere, and I got to get them. And then Nicole shakes me, wakes me up out of the mice dream, and goes, "Do you hear that? There's something in here." And I'm like, "What?" And then instantly, like, I hear something scurrying, and I'm like, "Oh God, there's mice in here. I knew it." And then this thing just pops up out of the wall, and it's a pine marten, and he's beautiful, and he's just like bright, fiery orange. He just pops his head up. I'm like, "Oh my God, it's a pine marten." And I just like, I put my headlamp on him, and he looks at me, we stare into each other's eyes, and then he just darts back down through the floor. Cause there's like holes in the floor and shit. Yeah. Like this is not a real house. There's no hut. It's just boards like on a mountain.
Absolutely.
But
that's so fun. I know. I was expecting to see the marten. But
yeah.
I was looking for him, but he didn't show up.
It's cool though. Like, so right on that mountain pass, if we've been like scouting this one really cool bowl that's like a little bit a bigger adventure that we want to ski, which I definitely think we'll ski later this year. That's kind of the thing we were talking about. It's like, don't ski a new thing in bad conditions. So once conditions get better, we'll ski that big bowl in the back. But on the other side of that ridge, this is like a major ridge, which is actually part of the Continental Divide Trail. And on the other side of that is where I saw the wolf.
That's right.
We were hiking, before snow conditions, and we got barked at by this wolf who was like aggressively yelling at me, Nicole, and Willow on the trail. And so I'm just thinking, I'm like, I wonder how far, like, because they migrate, right? They have this like territory. And I'm like, I wonder if he ever comes over towards the hut.
Yeah.
And like one day we're gonna go up to the hut and we're gonna see the wolf.
There was a couple moments where Ebony, she's not extremely brave, to put it nicely, but there's a couple moments where she just like lit up, like there was something around. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But she saw something or sensed something, and I was like, huh, moose, wolf, mouse.
Yeah. When we hiked up past the hut, like to the hikers left, they both were pointing at something a couple times that we didn't hear or see, but they both knew was there. Like there's definitely a lot of animals back there that, you know, are
for sure
living back there and hanging out and
doing life.
It's crazy to think that they're just like doing their life, but just like doing it in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, they're still out there.
They don't
go home. Yeah, they're in the same
the
outfit.
same house.
Yeah. They're not like going home for the winter and like staying warm. They're like out there, like, I mean, obviously there's like a migration, right? They're like going to lower altitudes, but there's still animals up there at the high altitude in the cold. Obviously, I saw them.
Yeah. I know, it's kind of wild.
I wonder if like ancient humans, like, were we super hairy and just like out there with them? Like, how hairy did we used to be? Like, how hairy were the early like hominid species? When did we lose that? Your beard still has it.
My beard has it.
Did your whole body used to look like your beard? Do you think the ancient Osbornes were just like all looked like your beard?
I feel like as far back as we have like paintings and everything, everyone's wearing fur capes
That's true.
or leather clothes or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was just a trait that we missed out on.
We never got it.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that though, but it's like, you know, the soft flesh doesn't transfer because like people always like imagine all dinosaurs in like reptilian form, and I kind of think they were just giant chickens, like they had feathers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's to say?
I was just listening. I think it was Joe Rogan was just talking about how he's like, no, I'm pretty sure like everything's showing that they were actually birds.
Yeah, I mean, we still call like the predatorial bird species raptors, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like they were probably pretty bird-like, just giant birds.
Massive.
That'd be terrifying. It's crazy to think that they roamed here. Like, so that ridge right there is dinosaur, or is the end of Dinosaur Ridge. And it's like, this was where there was dinosaurs, like here. Like, there might be dinosaur bones under this house. That's pretty crazy to think about.
That is wild.
Like, you're like, oh, dinosaurs, those lived somewhere
go check
else.
out the crawl space.
Yeah.
We need to go find
See
some
what
of
we
these.
can find. Well, I always think about dinosaurs being like some far off land.
For real.
Like they were in Iceland or like, I don't know, Papua New Guinea. But like, no, they were like here,
Probably here too.
like down the street,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Unless they don't exist at all. But I don't know. Who's
That's
to
one
say?
of those things.
So what's the trajectory you think with your skiing? Like, what other goals do you have? Do you have
With
any?
skiing?
Yeah, like for me, one thing I've been thinking about is getting out 30 days this year.
Yeah.
Just mainly because it's like so easy to talk about getting out for backcountry skiing, but one of the things I find is just like this resistance.
Totally.
Right? Like anytime, and this is like with like adventure in general. Like one thing I have is like from the outside, I'm sure everyone sees like, oh, this guy like just goes on like a bunch of adventures. But like for me, it's like I plan a lot of adventures, and then there's like this resistance, like I'm not feeling that good, or like the logistics are really difficult, or I don't have enough money, or I have a family thing come up, and there's always like these reasons that I shouldn't go. So my goal was like 30 days, like battle through the resistance, get out there.
Yeah.
Do you have anything, any goal, any other goals that we haven't touched on?
You know, no, I think like the multi-day, that feels so exciting. Like the hut for sure, but also like I want to do some bigger, like some pushes where it's like, okay, no, we're going to ski in 15 miles, set up camp, and then go hit this section.
When you think about camp, what kind of camp? Like at a hut, or like
No, like
an ice cave, or like
at
a rock
cave, build something in a natural feature, or even if it's just like a tent and sleeping bag.
Nice.
I feel like there's just something. So I've done a decent amount of snow camping, just like with tent and like kind of regular camping gear, and it's just special.
Yeah.
There's something about it that I love so much. And there's some like, my mental health is tied so closely with the amount of time that I can be in nature. Like, it's just huge for me.
What do you feel when you don't have that?
When I don't have that, I don't know. It runs out, like, I feel like there's just all like the normal things that we're doing that are comfortable and easy and that I love. So it's interesting because I feel like it's also that resistance where it's like, no, like I could sleep in my bed. I can make my breakfast right there, all the things. But there's, I don't know. It just like everything becomes more clear, I guess. I can slow down. It doesn't matter how fast I'm ripping. I can slow down and just like everything makes sense again. And yeah, even like near where this hut is, like that has been a spot through the summers, like for the last 6 years, where like if life is just like feels like too much, that's where I go. I sleep next to that creek, and it doesn't fix anything, but it all makes sense again. And I'm just like, it gives me what I need to come back, like fresh vision, I guess, and just be like, okay, no, I got this. This is what we're doing. This is, yeah, a lot of mental clarity for me.
That's nice. One thing that came up for Nicole and I when we were out there was just thinking about how little you need. It's like we went out there, you know, she's not extremely experienced in the backcountry, but she's like a doer, and she's tough and she's fit. So it's like, you know, if you're willing to learn, like, and you're fit and you're like a doer, you can probably get away with like some pretty big backcountry pushes.
Totally.
And she was just like, wow, like we don't really need much. Like we need to stay warm. We need a little bit of food.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then you can just live like wherever. And I'm like, yeah, you don't need any of this shit. This is all
so
superfluous. You don't need these curtains. You don't need all these clothes. You need like to stay warm and have food, and you'll be super happy. Like, happiest I've been all winter, all year, was just like in this little shitty shack eating steak off a fire, you know, with no belongings. We were eating steak off of my shovel for my avalanche kit because we had no plate. We were eating with our hands, you know, and just like smiling ear to ear. We didn't, our phones didn't work. We didn't have any social media. We didn't have like fancy spice kits. It's just like steak and smiles.
Steak and smiles.
That's all
More
we
of
had. Yeah. So I think that's part of the medicine, is the simplicity of it.
It really is. Yeah. Cause even when I'm home, I feel like, and maybe if I'm in like a mentally heavier place, it's still like the couple things, like go sit next to the fire and breathe, or go sit in the water, take a bath. Like, it's not all of the things that we have that are the important, that like give me the satiation. Those are the easier ones to run to. The amount of times I just pick up my phone and I'm scrolling, it's like, that's so easy. But the peace that comes from, simplicity, whether that's like making the effort to go to the mountains, to go be in nature, or even be with a piece of nature sitting in front of my fire and just breathing. It's like, oh, that's what I'm actually longing for.
Yeah,
it's
you can take like those mini aid stations at your fire in your backyard. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, a 5-mile walk into the backcountry. It could be just like going to the backyard and like being under the stars and, you know, sitting there next to the fire. Ultimately, I think that's what we need more of. Anytime you and I have these discussions, it's just like, more of that, more of outside, more of simplicity, more of whole foods, like just these like main core tenets that make life easier to handle. Yeah. And backcountry skiing, what it is it allows you to continue to experience nature year round. Totally. In like this very explorative way. Like Nicole has just gotten into skiing, and like we've gone to the resorts. She doesn't love skiing. Yeah. I took her. I put her on my split board because she was post holing. So I was like, I'll post hole. You use the split board. She loved it. She's like, this is the best. I want to do this. I want to backcountry ski because I want to walk around and sleep in a hut and go to the mountains and like be out in this big country in complete silence and feel tiny. Doesn't love skiing yet. Maybe she will one day. But that's like just such a small piece of what backcountry skiing is, at least to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's so beautiful. Yeah, because it's like it can be for like the big turns and getting to the big mountain. But also it's the therapeutic aspect of it. of like, no, I'm just going for a run, going for a walk, going for a hike, getting a workout in this. Yeah.
And that's an underrated piece of it, which is like, if you look at all of the best people in like mountain ultra running, most of them are skinning in the winter. They just have huge winters full of vert, and it's very low impact because most of the fitness that you're getting is all uphill. So they're able to get 12,000 feet of vert a day, just hiking uphill, skiing down, hiking uphill, skiing down.
Yeah.
They're always at altitude, and they're getting these giant weeks of volume without like beating up their body. And then that ends up translating really well into things like trail running or long trail, like backpacking, things like that. So there is like a really cool, useful fitness piece. It's not all like woo-woo, like hang out in the mountains. There's also like this very tangible zone 1, zone 2 fitness piece that comes from being and spending that much time in the mountains in the winter.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, what's hard in the winter is like getting out for runs.
So true.
That gets hard.
So true. We've had it easy this spring or this winter so far.
Yeah, so far. I've still been a baby.
Yeah.
I'm a baby about running in the cold. I don't know if I always was, but I am now.
Yeah. Give me some good gloves.
Yeah, you're good if your hands are warm. You just
Keep the left hand good, and I'm set.
what happened with your left hand again?
I cut it with
The saw.
yeah, ran a skill saw through it, so it's like very little sensation.
Ow. And so it gets colder faster?
It's always cold. Like even right now, I'm trying to warm it up.
No way.
Yeah.
Indoors.
Uh-huh.
It's cold all the time. It's like blood flow? Or
Yeah, I think so. Because I had also a bunch of surgery on this finger and then a bunch of surgery on the palm.
wow.
And so just like a lot of scar tissue.
But you can like move it normally.
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
fully functional. It's slow a little bit. And then like these 3 fingers don't have feeling. Or like the
Interesting.
nerves didn't grow back complete. They're there. Like I can, yeah, it's so weird. I'll get a drop of water like on my palm here and it feels like someone's cutting me back here.
Whoa.
Like it's just like, it's still confused.
That's
Which
crazy.
some of that supposedly like nerves are just wild how they grow and reconform to what's needed. So I think some of it's going to come back, but
Interesting.
it takes a while.
You could just like walk around like Michael Jackson, one glove,
Yeah.
and just like one
exactly.
sparkly glove. If anyone could pull that off, it'd be you.
I usually, yeah, at work, I'll typically have a mitten on this hand, nothing on this hand.
Wow.
That's just how
That's
it works.
such a vibe.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to talk about before backcountry skiing episode's over?
Yeah, just so much respect for the mountain, for the snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. It has so much to show us, and it can, yeah, just deserves a lot of respect.
Mm.
Get out, stay safe.
Yeah. Don't let the fear of avalanches or that kind of thing be the reason
Right.
to stop you. Go learn,
Yeah.
find a good buddy, someone you trust. Get out there, play in the snow.
Totally. I feel like this season we've stayed completely safe and had such an amazing time.
Yeah. Best days of the winter.
Yeah.
All right,
I'm
y'all.
excited for some more.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Till next time, stay wild.